Oh yeah, we are live. This is weird.
How do I even look? I don't even know if. I guess I don't. Because I don't. What if I want to share it on Twitter?
I don't know if I want to
let
do
people
that.
organically find it. Okay.
Yeah, like they'll find it. I mean, if you're going to get it. See, there's already like just kind of trial by fire here.
Yeah. I guess we won't bring attention to it. If people find it, awesome. And then when we do like a real one,
62 viewers.
Nah.
What is
seriously?
up, guys?
What's up, guys?
62.
How's everybody doing?
62. So this is the live stream version of the podcast, and this will be, I think it's going to be like a member thing, at least, maybe. I don't know. Because I feel like if we make it members only, it's not like as fun. Because you don't get as many people participating.
Maybe we'll do like one of each. We'll do like once a month. We'll do like a live one for everybody, and once a month we'll do one for the members as well.
Maybe.
We'll figure it out. Like we said, everything's malleable. We're moving along. We're figuring it out as we go.
So there will be an actual, like, produced version of this podcast once it's like the one you're normally used to. So let's talk, man. How's your week been?
Week has been good, man. I've been pushing out the content, a lot of iPad stuff, of course. And I kind of want to flip it back to you because, I don't know, a little birdie told me that we're getting closer and closer to making you an iPad Pro person. A strictly iPad Pro person.
Yeah. Like, this is the first time I've opened my MacBook in over a week. Like, I'm doing it for this podcast. First time in over a week. I've just been using the iPad Pro exclusively, and it's been great. Like, I know there hasn't been a lot of content that's come out for me in this period of time, but I do have like a ton of projects in the works right now, which I didn't have on the Mac. Like, I just didn't have that. And I feel like I'm writing more. Like, I'm getting back to scripting and actually like telling a story. Like, for instance, that last video, like I kind of interweaved a story in that video, which
it's an amazing video.
Which I didn't do. I haven't done in a long time. So I think the iPad is like helping me focus in a weird way. There's still a lot of complaints though. So
yeah, like I always tell people that the iPad Pro, it's not one-to-one to Mac OS, and like you said in your video, like you don't need to fix iPad OS. It just kind of is what it is. Sure, you can tweak it a little bit, improve it, but don't let it be Mac OS. But then also, it's just more fun to use. Like, I enjoy, like you said, scripting, writing on the keyboard, and then being able to pop it off and put it on my lap and maybe draw something. Or like the other day I was writing a script, and then, shout out to Bauer, our designer, our thumbnail expert. I wanted to give him a sketch of what I wanted, because he always helps me out. And I just grabbed the Apple Pencil, pulled it off, Apple Notes, drew like a rectangle, stick figures with some icons, and then he figured it out, and boom, we had a masterful thumbnail. So it's like little things like that.
Sounds like an NFT. Sounds like you're going to make some NFTs, man.
First link in the description. Everybody join.
I agree with you, though, man. Like, I agree. It's like, it's fun. And I think that was, honestly, I'll just be 100% real. Like, the last few years of using the Mac have not been as fun. Now, there's probably a lot of reasons for that, but I just feel like it feels bogged down a little. Like, whenever you open your Mac, maybe I'm the only one, but sometimes I open my Mac and there's just all these pop-ups and windows and stuff like bouncing, and it's like, dude, I just want to type something real quick. I don't want all this stuff coming at me, and that seems to be the case. Now, granted, I could probably do a better job of managing like my login items and stuff like that, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's not to disparage the Mac, because it's an amazing platform in and of itself, but there is something refreshing about just opening your iPad and it's just like it's ready to go always.
Yeah, it's crazy how like instant everything is. Like you said, not with Windows, but it's comparable to Windows nowadays. I remember back in the day with like the McAfee security, like pop-ups and Windows computers and everything. Like you said, it would just pop up in your face, and it would take like minutes upon minutes to turn on and be able to be used. And not that the Mac is that bad, but still.
But it's gotten worse.
It has gotten worse, and it does take a little bit of time to really like boot this thing up, especially if you're jumping into something more intensive like a Final Cut or, like a Photoshop or something like that. Versus on the iPad, not only does it open right away, but if something does happen, you quickly just quit out of it and reopen it back up instantly. because it is, for better or for worse, it is, it's rooted from iOS, and iOS has always been very, very instant, very fluid. So all the same kind of skeletons come over to iPad, which makes it just more fun to use, easier to use. Now, like you said, everything comes with its quirks, right? There are also things that could be improved, and I kind of want to know, maybe from your end, right? Because I've been using my iPad like this for a while now. I kind of want to know somebody who's been using it for like the week, and you really went full tilt for a week. What are some of the things that maybe slowed you down? Was it just a learning curve, or was it something specific that you think could be better? Walk me through that a little bit.
The lack of, and I brought this up in my video, lack of keyboard shortcuts was a huge bottleneck. Like having to literally copy and paste effects from every single clip to each adjacent clip it took hours to do that. Like, because I had like 100 some odd clips in that timeline, and there's no way to quickly mass copy and paste to this. So it's really just a software thing. It isn't so much inherently an iPad issue. It's just like Apple needs to flesh out Final Cut Pro.
So you were using Final Cut Pro, right?
I was, and I've used LumaFusion. I've kind of waffled back and forth. There's things I like about both.
DaVinci Resolve could be in there too. Throw iMovie if you want CapCut.
DaVinci Resolve is amazing, but it's the desktop version. It literally is like a one-to-one port, and it's like I don't want, I want touch first. If I'm going to use an iPad. So, and another thing that really surprised me is just how like buggy, or just I would run into slowdown issues where I would have delays with my Magic Keyboard. Like I would type and then the letters would come across like 5 seconds later. There was a lot of delays like that when using the Magic Keyboard. Apps would stutter, and I'm like, this is an M4 chip in here with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Like this should not be stuttering and slowing down. So I don't know. That's probably just an iPad OS bug, or they just need to optimize it for the new chipset. But that was something that kind of surprised me.
I will say, I remember I was mentioning this to you earlier with the Magic Keyboard and that little lag and intermittent kind of freezing up. I remember I had an issue with my original Magic Keyboard early on with my 2018 iPad Pro, and then it ended up being an issue with the pin connectors of the Magic Keyboard. So maybe that could be your issue, and they just replaced it right on site at the Apple Store, because I haven't had those issues with my new Magic Keyboard and M4 iPad Pro. So it could just be like an actual physical thing that's wrong with the Magic Keyboard with the pin connectors. But
it is funny that you say that, because when I took it off the keyboard, it seemed to work a lot better. So it could just be that. Yeah. So anyway.
But just to give you my 2 cents real quick on the iPad Pro, I absolutely love it. I'm an iPad Pro first kind of guy ever since the 2018 iPad Pro. And then my jump was, I've been doing this more and more recently, because the updates to pretty much all Apple products, or all the consumer tech in general, the updates year to year are just very incremental. So to see that leap, you don't see that anymore. So I came from a baseline M1 iPad Pro, which released in 2021, and then I went to a 1 terabyte M4. So not only am I going from M1 to M4, but I'm doubling my RAM. I'm 4 or 5xing my storage, or more so, maybe 10xing my storage. So everything is snappy. I'm feeling the efficiency gains, the power gains, and it's been a pleasure to use, honestly. And I've been comparing it to my old M1 iPad Pro just to see if there's an actual speed difference for those export times in LumaFusion, like specifically. And yeah, it's about 60% faster, which does kind of help out in terms of what I was doing, because with 128 gigs of storage and only 8 gigs of RAM on the last one, it was working and I made it work. But again, it was towards the end there, it started to slow down a little bit, and I noticed it. So now with the M4, it's really kind of just running right through there, which I love.
So what would you say is your favorite, coming from the M1 iPad Pro, what is the feature that stands out to you the most? The one feature about this new iPad that is wow, this is a huge jump.
So aside from the just sheer performance, I'm going to go, because, my brother came in here the other day and he looked at the M4 iPad Pro and he looked at my M1 iPad Pro. And to him, they kind of look the same. And then he picked it up and he's like, okay, yeah, I see the differences and things like that. But as somebody who used the M1 iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard, with the Apple Pencil on a daily basis and carried around, honestly, the new design, the lightweight nature, the thinness, the redesign to the Magic Keyboard for that lighter package has made a big difference in how I'm using the iPad Pro. I would never, ever use my 12.9-inch iPad Pro in tablet mode. I would never take it off and just use it. Versus now, I am pulling it off because it is that much lighter and it is that much more usable and kind of that, again, that iPad form factor that Steve Jobs gave us back in 2011, right? So that to me has been the biggest difference. Even though visually, when you just look at them side by side, they don't really look that different, if at all. But the weight does make a difference.
I would probably have to agree with you on that. Yeah. Like, because I'm coming from the same scenario. Granted, I had the 2 terabyte. Yeah, I had the 2 terabyte M1. So it's like the jump wasn't that shocking to me because, I was used to having 16 gigabytes of RAM. I was used to having all that storage available. But the lightweight form factor definitely does make a difference, especially like you said, in tablet mode. It's just more comfortable to use, comfortable to hold, even though it is a 13-inch device. So here's the thing for me, though, that really, after using this, I went ahead and bought a what is this called? The matte screen protector. I bought a matte screen protector.
Okay,
and
nice.
I'm a believer now.
Yeah.
Like, I get it now. At first, I was like, granted, it does reduce the clarity. And it's not as nice to look at. But man, it makes a difference. Like, it makes a huge difference when, I obviously using it outdoors. I used it out on the patio the other day. It makes a huge difference in writing because of the texture. Yeah. And I like the fact that I didn't have to pay for the nano texture, and I can take it off if I want to take it off, right? So if you're on the fence, like if you want a matte display, but you don't really want to pay that extra or upgrade to be able to have the privilege to buy the nano texture, then it's ridiculous. But yeah, this is like a $7 little screen protector that I got off of Amazon. So I'm sure there are better quality ones out there, like from Paperlike and stuff. Yeah. But I was impressed with this little cheap screen protector.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for mine from Paperlike. I think they had to, because the camera cutout moved, or the camera moved, they had to change the camera cutout. So that's the one that I'm waiting for, because I would say like 90% of the time I got my matte screen protector on, just because, like you said, I like the way it looks a little bit better, and there's the resistance with the Apple Pencil. So that's what I'm waiting for. And then, to segue into that Apple Pencil Pro, I think that's something that really headlines a lot of what the iPad Pro, during the iPad Pro release. Like, the Apple Pencil Pro made some serious feature gains while staying the same in price. So, the haptic feedback alone would be worth it for an upgrade for me, because the haptic feedback, Apple's haptic feedback on their iPhones have been second to none. So bringing that over to the Apple Pencil really adds like this, it's like tangibility to it, which is hard to describe. Like, you got to try it to see exactly what I'm talking about. And then squeeze function has been awesome because you can shortcut it to whatever you want. So it's almost like an action button on your Apple Pencil for your iPad Pro. And then obviously the gyroscope and rotation. Again, I'm no artist. Like I said, I'm drawing stick figures with the regular black marker on the Notes application, but I can see people getting big time use out of that, especially if you're in that world.
For sure. Yeah. It's a game changer if you're an artist, no doubt. Like, it's a major upgrade if you're an artist. For me, not so much. Like, the more I've used it, the more I'm like, oh, these are nice features to have, but it's less of an impact than I thought it would be initially, because I'm just not that type of person that it opens up Procreate and uses that all the time. So, but if you're an artist, no doubt, this is a huge, huge upgrade.
I almost wish that, if you had them side by side, again, you can't really do this, but if I had them side by side and I didn't own any of them, then I would definitely go to the Apple Pencil Pro. But I've almost wished like Apple made the Apple Pencil Pro maybe a little bit more expensive, but then allowed us to use the Apple Pencil 2 with the newer devices, right? Like, give us a decision to make, because it is very unfortunate that the Apple Pencil 2 does not work with the M4 iPad Pro or the M2 iPad Air. You know what I mean? Because it was a $130 device. And like you said, for the most part, if I wasn't forced to upgrade to the Apple Pencil Pro, I probably wouldn't have gone, and I would have saved my $130. So I do wish that Apple maybe just make it a little bit more expensive if you want to lean people that way or show people the value of the new Apple Pencil Pro. But I wish they gave us the option to still use the Apple Pencil 2 with the new iPad Pros.
Yeah, I think the reason for them not allowing that is just the magnetic connection, like, because it just was a physical difference because of the reoriented camera, the landscape camera. So I don't know how they would have gone about that, because if it can't charge, there's no USB charging. How would you pair it or charge it?
I think Apple could have figured it out. Let's be real. let's not get it twisted. I think Apple did this as a quick little, hey, if you really want to use the Apple Pencil, the Pencil Pro, the cheapest way to do it is to get a $600 M2 iPad Air. You know?
I agree. I don't think Apple's above doing stuff like that. I really don't, because we've seen it time and time again in the past. But this is one example. I don't think that is the case necessarily. I think that they probably would have tried to make it work if they could, within the constraints of their design and the blueprints of this new device. And I just think it wasn't worth the investment for them to do that in order to make that work. They could have, but it could have resulted in a less, just a less,
like
just making compromises.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, making compromises. So I get that. Yeah,
that's iPad Pro, and I do want to acknowledge D-Man 7895. They're debating between a 13-inch iPad Air or iPad Pro. You should go watch the video that I just dropped about an hour ago, because I detail whether or not it's worth to get a new M2 iPad Air or an older M1 or M2 iPad Pro. And I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that. Which way would you go? Because you could probably find one. You could definitely find M1 or M2 iPad Pros for the price of a new M2 iPad Air. So what would you do?
I would go with the Pro.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
Even if it's if it's an M1 iPad Pro, it depends on how you're going to use it. Like if you're an artist, I would definitely want the M2 or above, just because of hover, and because I think that does bring a lot to the table. But if you're not an artist, you're just somebody who takes notes, you don't care about that sort of thing, the M1 iPad Pro still has an amazing screen to this day with that mini LED. And I would probably go that route if I were you. If I had $800 to burn and I was looking between an iPad Air and a older model iPad Pro, I'd probably go Pro, just for the screen, the difference in screen alone.
Yeah, I said the screen being the biggest reason why you would stick with the Pro models, and then also, again, depending on what you use your iPad for, the Thunderbolt port makes a big difference, right? Again, if you're not moving data around and things like that, then don't worry about it. But between you and me, like, we move data around a lot, so that the 40 gigabytes per second versus 10 is a big difference.
So that's an excellent segue, because I want to talk about accessories, because I do have a video in the works about accessories for the iPad Pro, but it is insane. Like, literally all the stuff you can do with this device now. A lot of it has to do with the Thunderbolt connectivity and the fact that you have fast I/O, but a lot of it doesn't. A lot of it is just with like Bluetooth devices and things like that. So what would be your number one, outside of the obvious, the Magic Keyboard, the pencil, what would be like your number one accessory? Okay, also give me a sleeper accessory. So like your number one accessory, and then one that you think is super cool, but not necessarily everyone would want to use.
Okay, this one could fall under each category depending on how you set up your iPad. And I don't know why this took so long for somebody to create, but I recently reviewed a magnetic stand by a company called Kyuxu, which I've used their stands before. It's pretty, when you look at it, it just looks like a normal stand that you plop on your iPad with magnets, right? It looks nice, it's built out of aluminum, whatever. But their new version has pin connectors. And I don't understand why it took like 6 years for somebody to do this. And the pin connectors act the same way that the pin connectors act on a Magic Keyboard. And I haven't seen another accessory company like recreate the pin connectors. I've seen like Pitaka tried to do it, but they made it with like you had to put a case on your iPad for it to work, for it to charge correctly, and then you put that iPad on their stand to charge it. But it's basically just a metallic stand. You put the USB-C port or plug the USB-C cable on the back of the stand, and then you plop your iPad on there, and it's charging. So if you have a desk setup where you have your iPad at like eye level, you have your wireless keyboard and mouse, then that leaves a Thunderbolt port open for you to add accessories whenever you see fit, and you're not relying on something like a $350 Magic Keyboard to act as kind of the same exact stand. The M4 iPad Pro version is out now, and I think it's coming for me, but the one that works with the M2 iPad Air also works with pretty much every single M1, M2, even the 2018 and 2020 iPad Pros, because all the magnets are aligned exactly the same, and so are the pin connectors. So, again, I don't know why it took so long for that to be created, but it is out now, which I absolutely love. But then in terms of like a must-have, that's not the Magic Keyboard or the Apple Pencil. I'm trying to think of like USB-C hubs or USB-C docks. I guess it just really depends on how you're going to use your iPad. Like, Are you going to be on the move a lot? Like, do you need a quick little like hyperdrive to plug in your USB-C ports, or are you going to be stationed at a desk and like you could take advantage of something like a CalDigit TS, like TS4 or something, you know? So, but something in that realm, like in that USB-C Thunderbolt hub kind of scenarios where I would steer people.
So my must-have item is something weird, and it's something that a lot of people probably are going to say, why is that your must-have item? But it's this right here, the Smart Folio for iPad Pro. Just a simple
why is that?
Smart Folio for iPad Pro. That is my must-have item. Even if you're a Magic Keyboard user, I think now I'm not saying go out and buy the $100 Apple version. I'm not saying that at all.
There's a lot of third-party ones that you can get.
Yeah,
for a tenth of the price.
Get the third-party ones. It's ridiculous how much they charge for this little piece of plastic that
it's $100.
Probably cost them. Yes,
that's crazy.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Like, and the thing is, like, you can't use the one you had last year with it because the magnets are different. So on that tip, I could say, yeah, Apple is nickel and diming. Like, it's ridiculous. This should not cost $100. In no world is this thing worth $100. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just saying.
No, you can bash on that for sure.
It's ridiculous, man. Yeah. So you're telling me that this is worth basically a third of the price of this, the Magic Keyboard? You're saying that this is a third of the value of this?
It's crazy.
How? In what world? In what world is that? Anyway, get the Amazon version. Don't go out and pay $100 for that because that's ridiculous. But that being said, I think it's a necessary thing if you have a Magic Keyboard, because you don't want to always have your Magic Keyboard carrying that around with you all the time. Sometimes you want to use your iPad in tablet mode, and you know that's what you're going to be doing. And when you want to do that, when you have the Magic Keyboard connected, it's just awkward because you're doing this. You're doing this all day, and you have this keyboard like cutting into you.
Or you got to take it off and fold it down and lay it on top of it. Yeah.
Or you take it off, you fold it down like you said. You do this whole awkward song and what do they call it? A pony dance. What I don't know. Whatever that idiom is, dog and pony dance. I don't know. But you do that when you could just have a nice thin package with just the folio, and to me it's just a nice accessory to have, even if you're a Magic Keyboard user, because you don't want to always have that keyboard around, and then you also want to be able to protect the rear of your iPad Pro, the front of the screen when you do take it off. So
does it have a little latch or no?
No,
like a little magnetic.
But you do get you do get more viewing angles. So like when you do like that. I like to sit it. I'll show you my video, but I like to sit mine down like this on the desk and have sort of like a iPad like this, and then I have my actual screen like that. So I have sort of like almost like what they call it, Wacom.
Like a Wacom tablet or something. Yeah. Wacom.
Almost like that.
Yeah.
Wacom. I don't know.
Wacom.
But so yeah. Another thing is that you have these different angles. So I'm sorry, I'm terrible at showing this, but. So this little guy slides up, and you can kind of feel it adjust. It's a new thing, right?
It's almost infinite, right? It's like you just kind of have like a bunch of different viewing angles versus I think we used to have like 2, 3 max.
To a certain degree, it is. Yeah. It is infinite. Yeah. So I just think that's you think that if I buy a Magic Keyboard, well, I don't need the Smart Folio, but that's not really true. It's nice to have both. In my opinion. Yeah.
I missed the Slim Folio keyboard. I remember I used to, for that fact, because it was still very thin. It still is. You can go buy when they still offer it. But the Slim Folio keyboard, I would be in typing mode 1 second, and then I'll just flip it back around and then lay it down, and it'll be good to go because it could remain on while flipped backwards. Yeah, you had the keyboard exposed on the rear, but it was all covered in rubber anyway. But that's one thing I do miss from the keyboard situation right now with the iPad Pro, how it was much easier to get into tablet mode than it is now.
Yeah, for sure. So my sleeper, no, you're good. So my sleeper device is, man, I have so many to choose from. That's why I was trying to go through my list here, because I have 20 iPad Pro accessories that I am covering here. So let me open up Ulysses here and just see. My sleeper item would be the Rodecaster Duo. Now this is I can't really show it because it's actually what I'm this little guy right here.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, so the cool thing about this guy, I don't know if you can see it. I don't want to unplug my microphone, but so you see this little guy right here, this cable. That's a Thunderbolt cable, or USB-C cable rather, and that goes directly to my Mac right now. So that's how I'm getting connectivity to this guy, and then I have an XLR that goes to this microphone, right? But what's cool is there's a second Thunderbolt cable or port there. Well, USB-C port.
Yeah.
And you can use that to connect to another iPad or another iPhone or another Mac and use that to input audio into your first iPad.
Interesting.
So you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So recently, Logic Pro came up with, well, they didn't come up with it, but they introduced a new feature called Stem Splitter in Logic Pro. What that does is that you can load any audio track and it will use AI. I hate that term. It will use AI
buzz.
break down that song into its main components, right? So you have your drums, you have your bass, you have your vocals, you have any other external, items within the song. And it literally will separate each of those items. And then you can say there's a favorite song of yours, like, I don't know.
Throw a T-Pain song out there,
No T-Pain. I forget you're a Florida boy. Let me just pull up. Let me pull up Al Green's Greatest Hits. I've been listening to that recently.
Okay.
You can kind of date myself a little bit. But so you could say there's a drum loop on your favorite Al Green song. You could take that drum loop and then remix that loop. You can speed it up. You can chop it up. You can do anything. And then that's how you can create your own original items. It's sort of like you would call it sampling, but you create your own original song from an older song. The cool thing about the Rodecaster Duo is that, all right, so normally you wouldn't be able to use Apple Music to do that because of DRM and all that, right? So there's no way to load an Apple Music track into Logic Pro to do this. But with this, you can play Apple Music in high quality on your second iPad or your iPhone, and then use that as the input source in Logic Pro on your iPad. And therefore, you work around the whole DRM thing, and you're able to basically have access to any song that you can split stems for any song that's on Apple Music. So if you're a music producer or someone who creates music, or you just like tinker around remixing songs and creating your own songs, I do love to do that. Yeah. This is a game changer. Like that Rodecaster Duo is a huge win. And that's only the tip of the iceberg what it does. It's also a MIDI controller. So you can use it to there's pads on here. You saw the smart pads. You can use that to use it for your drums right there in Logic Pro. It's a super versatile thing. And it's also audio interface. And it also allows you to connect the Rode Wireless Pro lapel mic.
Okay.
This works as a receiver for that.
Wirelessly?
So, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's crazy. Like this thing that's my sleep. Now it's not for everybody, but that is definitely my sleeper item. That's going to be on my video. I'm going to talk about that and explain why I like that. But I know I sort of went on a tangent.
He's about to come out.
Yeah, you don't want that. No. But yeah, it's just fun, man. And that's what I'm talking about. The iPad is fun. Like you can do stuff like that. Granted, you could do the same thing on the Mac too. Mm-hmm. But it's just cool.
There's something about the touch screen also. It's just like the thinness of it. Now that you said you can layer two of them or we could have multiple iPads kind of like connected into one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's dope. That's the beauty of iPad. And I think that's what the pro level, like that's what it's like intended for, I think. Like who is it? We got to get Henny on here to really kind of walk us through how he uses the iPad,
That's a must. We're going to get Henny. Grammy Award winner.
Yeah, Grammy Award like producer who used I remember I found his channel years ago because he was using the iPad pretty like strictly for his business, and then I was like, oh wow, there's like this whole other world that exists that I'm just like not aware of how people use their iPad in a professional setting.
So that's my tangent. I feel like I'm exhausted after that. I feel like I ran a marathon, man, and I'm sure we lost half the viewers off just my rants. So
We still
anyway,
got some people. We still got people talking. Let's round it off with maybe a quick little WWDC discussion. Like the coolest thing that I've seen already that Apple's already announced is eye tracking for the iPad, and I want to see how similar that's going to be to like the Vision Pro aspect and how that works, how it tracks your eyes and you're able to interact with the iPad. And I want to see if that's just going to be mainly an accessibility feature or if people will be able to take advantage of that. But outside of that, I don't really know what else to expect from WWDC.
I think like we're going to get major improvements to the home screen, which is, obviously that's already been something that's been rumored, with being able to change, like put icons anywhere, be able to change the color of icons either, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But so I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to like stage manager improvements, hopefully, because as good as it is now, there's a lot that it does. Like, for instance, I texted you yesterday about the fact that you cannot, when you're in stage manager and you're in windowed mode, you can't use swipe gestures. Like, you can't like go back with a swipe. You can do it with a trackpad.
Yeah.
But you can't use a swipe gesture to go back.
Like physically touching the screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't. I don't think it doesn't know what to do. It gets like freaked out. I mean, I'm not sure why, but like it should be something that's there because that's like the bread and butter of what the iPad is. And I agree with you. Like I think Stage Manager, I can't like put my finger on what it's missing. Maybe it's like even more free flowing windows, the ability to go full screen to then windowed mode much faster with less friction. There's like a small lack of fluidity to it, I think.
Okay, so I know what it is.
Rip
I know what
it
it is.
Yeah.
It is the fact that Apple is trying to accommodate indirect input. So meaning a mouse or a trackpad. That's indirect input. Direct input is where you're physically touching the screen, right? They're trying to make them the same. They're not the same. So when you have a mouse and you know how an iPad OS, things kind of like jump to different, like as you move, that's not the way it should work. Like we need fluidity. We need it to work just like it does on Mac OS to move between these items. It shouldn't be like you're using, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. It slows you down. That slows you down. I feel like I'm walking through mud when I'm trying to use my mouse or trackpad to move and navigate the screen and between different apps and different buttons and stuff like that. It wants to like snap to each of those elements when it shouldn't do that. It should just be fluid if you're using an indirect input source.
No, for sure. And it's like even something as simple as like going side, like obviously split view is pretty easy to put together, but getting a split view in Stage Manager mode is, like you said, the screens kind of jump around from each other. Like one kind of hides behind the other one without you wanting it to. They've improved it from iPadOS 16 to 17 by adding, because before I think there was only like 6 predetermined sizes that you could pick from the windowed mode, and now it's a lot more. I want to say it's in the 40s and 50s, but I want to be able to just do it like an infinite canvas almost, right? And then also I watched, I don't know if you noticed, but I watched Olier's video. I don't know if you know him on YouTube. He also tried to do the switch over to the iPad to see if he could do it. And you can't, like he used Final Cut Pro to edit a video, and you can't go full screen mode on a secondary display with Final Cut Pro.
I'm hoping that Final Cut Pro for iPad 2 will fix a lot of those issues. And we're not complaining. I love my iPad.
We're just constructive criticism to get Apple to where we want it, Get the iPad where we want it.
Appreciate all the folks that joined our live stream.
Yeah.
Again, we'll try to do this a little bit more regularly. And obviously it's a little rough, but you kind of see how the sausage is made, so to speak, behind the scenes.
But leave some comments down below what you guys thought of this podcast. We'll answer any questions. Let us know what you expect of WWDC. We're excited to see what's going on over there. But that's a wrap, everybody.
I'll catch you next week.
Peace, everybody.